Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Recruit podcast powered by Dwerk. For those of you joining us, this is Dwerk. We specialize in helping recruitment businesses scale their revenue over the next 12 months using bespoke systems. If you want to learn how to take your recruitment business to the next level, make sure you stick around for this conversation. Today, we have Jared Black. Jared, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Jared Black. I'm the founder of Newvine Employment Group. Essentially, I'm a professional recruiter. I help companies find, discover, and hire the best talent in their markets. And usually, growth focused companies or scaling companies come to me when they need to fulfill a hard to fill position, specifically for a high performer or what we call an A player. And been doing that since 2015, based in South Florida. We serve all the US and most of major markets. And yeah, excited to be here.
Amazing. No, thank you so much for coming on. I guess, we'll dive straight into it. And you mentioned a bit about what you do there, but can you give me a bit more breakdown of your role and how that fits into the bigger picture at your company?
Yeah. So, I mean, my role in the company is, I would say, split up in three key parts. One, the part that I try to spend the least amount of time, which is in the business, but that's, being involved with clients. I do spend a good chunk of my time making sure the clients feel my presence, keeping those relationships strong. Also, the quality of the placements has my fingerprints on it, not only my methodology, but all the trainings and processes that I implement. But also, I like to know which candidates are being placed into which into which companies, so that I could at least know for sure that my clients are being the best way served possible.
Sure. And I guess to dive a bit deeper into that, how did you originally get into recruitment and what made you decide to build your own firm?
Yeah. I think I get into recruitment the same way most people got into recruitment, by accident, I think. I don't think there's a lot of people who intend to get into recruitment, but they usually find some sort of strength along the way. It's no different for me. I got into recruitment because I was frustrated with the recruiting partners and the staffing partners I was working with. I used to use a lot of staffing partners in my previous company. So back then, I was just having a very difficult time finding the right partners. Was going through a ton of different vendors. Nobody was really able to provide me the service and the quality that I needed. And after talking to a lot of colleagues in the space and peers in the space, I kind of learned that everyone was just going through the same thoughts and feelings and frustration. So that was my aha moment and my light bulb to say, hey, I'm going to go out and do this. I'm going to solve this problem, and I'm going to provide the service that we're all looking for. So just out of that pure frustration is what, birthed Newvine. And we founded the company under those principles of service, accountability, deliverability, transparency, and innovation.
Sure. Amazing. And you mentioned, your company Newvine. From doing a bit of research, you sort of really promoting the recruitment as a service for that business. So how do you sort of explain that model and potentially where that fits with traditional staffing recruitment?
Yeah. The best way I can frame it is companies companies usually figure out recruitment on the go. They never plan for it. It's usually you have a great product, maybe you have a great service, a great, software or something like that. And sales and deliverability is kind of built out with specification and focus and intention. And then recruitment is like along the way, you gather people, you grab people. Usually that's how most companies are formed or started, definitely through networks. But as you start to scale and you need to go outside those first connections or those first relationships that you may have, finding the right people becomes a bit of a guessing game for a lot of companies, where they try different strategies. Recruitment as a service is where we're able to partner with a company and we're able to bring our resources and our process into their business without treating it like a outside vendor, outside relationship, and not making it a transactional relationship. So I guess the best way to think about it is companies pay for lead generation. They might pay a company to bring in leads into the top of the funnel. Recruitment as a service could be treated the same way, where we're bringing candidates top of funnel. I I just happen to believe that recruiting and sales are very closely aligned. You never really want to turn it off. You always want to continuously have a full pipeline or building a bench. And so if you're always looking for good talent, you'll never need to hire, or you're never desperate to hire somebody at the last minute. You'll always have a good working roster of people to go back to. And so recruitment as a service kind of serves as that bench for a company. And we build the bench, we maintain it for them, and then we also learn about the company and their vision and their goals along the way so that we become better, more accurate.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. Yeah, from the people that I've had on this podcast and stuff, it's something that hasn't potentially we haven't seen many companies go about it with this approach, and it's certainly what you mentioned is absolutely true. Recruitment is so closely linked to sales that it makes sense. The model completely makes sense. I suppose for you, where did you first sort of get this idea, and where did this all start for you?
I mean, I definitely don't want to take credit for the idea. I'm sure that I'm not the first person to think of that. I'm sure there's other people who are doing something similar. But what I would, what I would hear often is a lot of my clients were growing rapidly and they had an underserved or an underdeveloped or an underperforming talent acquisition team. They usually had 1 to 2 to 4 to 5 people within a team. And then there's hundreds of team members, dozens of open roles that need to be filled. They just can't keep pace. So coming into those environments, we're able to provide a little bit more velocity towards the talent acquisition side and relieve that person so they can kind of more focus on the last mile of that hiring process. And we would hear this all the time. So companies were turned off to external recruiters or they were turned off to the traditional contractor method. They wanted to hire directly, but they just didn't have the velocity or the process to be able to get the people that they needed. So partnering with their companies, listening to what our customers were saying, we're able to create this product.
Amazing, amazing. No, that makes sense, and yeah, I think it's a fantastic model. I suppose now, if we dive a bit deeper into sort of the wider industry, what are some of the biggest shifts you're seeing in the market right now? With all the technological changes with AI and how it's developing so rapidly. What are sort of the shifts that you're seeing right now?
I feel like that pendulum swings every day. It swings back and forth. So um, it just depends. It depends on what industry you're in. Depends on what seniority level you sit at. Depends if you are candidate versus business. I hear so many different opinions, so many different conflicting thoughts and ideologies. I think when I think of AI, I think of it as a tool or a weapon, right? If you're running a business, you want to have the best tools at your disposal. I think every business wants to compete. I think everybody wants to be aggressive or at least be able to make a big impact in their specific niche or their market. So you need to look at your business and look at where AI fits in your business and then make the best accommodations you can. In pertaining to recruitment, it's an absolute must. You need to be using AI to help serve your recruitment and your talent acquisition process, whether it's discovery, whether it's analytics, whether it's data mapping, whether it's pattern recognition, whether it's, I don't like fully autonomous interview style yet. It's not there, but it's getting there. Ultimately, we probably will be somewhere very close to fully autonomous interviews. But ultimately, you need to be using AI in your recruitment process, as well as a number of areas. It's not exclusive to recruitment. I mean, but there are functions that a recruiter does that should not be done by a person anymore. Let the technology do the tedious, repetitive, mundane work, and let the human focus on what's human, like the human to human interaction, the conversation, bringing that person into the organization and learning about the human. That's where I feel recruitment is going. And from a recruitment or a recruiter standpoint, recruiters have to get good at using this tool, just like ATS, just like using the phone, just like using text, just like using anything else that a recruiter over the last 50 years had to figure out how to use. This is the newest tool in your tool belt. You need to learn how to use it, or the company needs to learn how to provide you this tool at your resource. I think it's an absolute must. It's only going to get stronger. This is the worst version of AI that we're going to see. It's now just about doing it correctly. I think there are some warning signs. There are some potential red flags to watch out for legally. So the EU is going to be launching their AI, I would say privacy and consumer use acts pretty soon. I think that's rolling out in August. And the US will follow. So you need to be doing so in a responsible way, but you should be mindful of, what are the risks, but also what saves us time, what makes us more efficient, and how do we use this in a safe way.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's a great take, and what you mentioned with, it's so true that this is the worst that AI is going to be, and it's
Yeah.
already so good. So you can only imagine in a year or two what that could be. I suppose from speaking to a few other founders in recruitment, they sort of share the view that the companies that win over the next 5-10 years are going to be the companies that are able to mesh AI and human well. I guess to find that balance is the hard part, right? Because so many companies are potentially using them for autonomous interviews, and some good candidates are getting turned away because it's the
Yeah.
technology is maybe not quite there right now. I suppose for you, using AI and within the clients that you've worked with, how are you sort of trying to find that balance and making sure that you using AI to its full potential, but not not the wrong way? If that makes sense.
Yeah. Again, there's a lot of risks. You can't just jump into it blind, sign up for any software because there are literally tens of thousands of different softwares and tools out there today. And I think I read something like there's like 2 to 4,000 new apps being released every day. So it'll just get more and more congested. So what you need to do is you need to have your first principles. What do we want to do? How do we want to be perceived? What type of recruitment style do we approach? You need to understand what are your what are your core principles? What do you want to do as a company or as a recruiter? And then you need to find the tools that help you achieve that the most. There's some crazy metrics that are happening just in the first half of this year. Actually, I just released a video on this, I think a couple weeks ago, but I was talking about in the first half of 2026, there's already been over 130 companies who have hired a completely fraudulent fake AI person, like not just interviewed, but all the way through interview to onboard, 100% onboarding. And these are fraudulent AI people. They're not real people. So it's not just one or two. These are over 100 different companies, and these are large enterprises. So the fully AI autonomous recruitment style, probably not there yet. There needs to be checks and balances. I also mentioned about the labor laws that will be coming very soon later this year. You need to be aware of that. So you can't just dive fully into AI and expect AI to carry your recruitment process because you're just going to find yourself in a bunch of trouble when later half of the year, the first round of AI related lawsuits start coming up, right? They will come. I have a prediction that we're going to start seeing massive lawsuits by the end of this year pertaining to AI and recruitment. So that being said, you know, I think there's a middle ground. There's a good balance. You just have to test and see what works for you, for your company, and what level you're at, right? If you're looking for people who are specifically technically capable to do certain things, like if you're looking for developers, you're looking for project managers, you're looking for certain tech capability or technology or experience, you have to find a way to test for that. And you have to be aware of the tools and the things that the candidate has now at their disposal with interviewing and cheating on assessments and technical capability. That that's a real thing. So there's a lot of like back and forth. There's AI generated resumes, there's AI generated job descriptions, and like these two AI generated concepts are fighting with each other and they're matching with each other and they're like, oh, this is a great candidate. So there's so much buzz going on. You have to really find a way to separate the noise and get back to human. Use AI where you can to alleviate the disruptive work, whether it's messaging, whether it's grading, it's ranking or sorting or analytics. But you need to be back to the human to human element. Google has already recorded. They've changed their policy where they're bringing back mandated in-person interviews. McKinsey's doing the same thing. I think a lot of other companies are going to follow suit because they don't want to be chasing these fictitious candidates anymore. They want to have a real human to human interaction. And I think the latest buzz right now is like what's most human is now winning. So AI is great. It's sexy. It's a good buzzword, but ultimately, if you have strong human to human soft skills, you will prevail.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I suppose if we use that to dive deeper a bit on how you're doing with your company and what's working for you. I guess given all the technological changes, and I'm sure clients have questions, etc. What's potentially working well for you and your team right now that you see that maybe other people aren't doing right now?
Yeah. What's working well for me? Well, we leverage Vine. Vine AI is our AI recruiter. Essentially, what we do, we built that custom. We developed that over between the latter half of 2024. We launched it in beginning of 2025. And essentially what that is, it's a series of agents that work together to not only discover, but identify, surface, and then grade and rank profiles based on certain criteria and matches of our clients. So we build in our process and our methodology into the core foundation of the agents. And then we go out to over 100 different data providers to identify these possible candidates. Then we basically rank them and grade them against a certain profile and criteria from the job description and what our client looks for in a candidate, their core values, things like that. Then we leverage AI to engage with those candidates. So we want to hit them in multiple places, whether it's LinkedIn, email, phone, text, SMS. We want to be able to leverage AI to be able to reach out to them in a faster timeline, but also in volume. And then from there, we're scheduling them into a immediate meeting with one of our team members. That's where the human steps in. There are humans in the process, but it's really just checking and keeping everything moving forward in a accurate manner. So when our agent returns a result, there's a human recruiter involved checking to make sure that this is accurate. This person actually matches the requirement. They have the right location, they have the right work experience, the education, whatever was required. There's somebody just keeping checks and balances in place there, and they're moving along. So there's an approval process moves along. From there, once we actually engaged, we have a scheduled meeting. Recruiter is able to meet with a candidate. We have what's called buy-in. When we have that buy-in from the candidate, it means they're open to the opportunity. They're ready to explore this a little bit further. Then we have a formal interview. And this is all done virtually. We do Zoom interviews with everyone all over the world. We have teams of recruiters working in 8 different time zones. So for us, uniformity, consistency, messaging, it's all powered through our process and through AI. And as a team, we're able to execute like this because we're able to build this from the ground up within our process. But it's something that has worked very well for us. We're able to fill roles in days rather than weeks, and it surfaces candidates in a matter of minutes. So the only hangup that could occur is the timeline in which a candidate responds back to us. The only way we can curb that is by leveraging more volume. So I would say the only restrictions might be geographical location. If I need to hire somebody in Manhattan, then that constricts the geographical location to specifically that area. And therefore, that may slow down the search. But if I was open to anywhere in the Northeast or open anywhere to the US, things like that, in a matter of minutes, I can have your candidate for you.
Amazing. And yeah, that's an amazing tool. And I'm sure it's something that's helped you stand out in such a crowded market, right? I suppose looking into that, firstly, I guess 2 questions. One, when did that sort of become part of your company? I guess a separate strand of your company. And 2, is that a separate productized offer that you offer, or is that part of your main company?
Great question. So I guess the first time it became in my, for me, philosophy wise, is probably around 2019. I was fascinated with what was happening with AI. I'm not a technical founder by any means. I didn't have the skills to be able to build something myself. I tried to partner with some, overseas development companies, and we just couldn't get off the ground. I wasn't really happy with what the results. It was just more of a glorified phrase matching, and I didn't see it as a competitive advantage to what was already doing well in the market. So decided to kind of put that to rest and continue on and work with our existing services. Then ChatGPT went live, and I became obsessed with everything ChatGPT. I immediately started looking at how I can implement this into the business and started learning everything I could about AI. And over the next couple years, so that was around 2022. So right around beginning of 2024, it's probably when Bolt and Lovable and these low code software and dev builders started popping up. And I saw the possibilities, and I was like, let me play with some of these tools and let me play with some of these resources, started putting some really early stage products together, and I was just in love. Then we started to bring on team members, that were more closely aligned with AI automation, development, and these types of areas so that they could build the founding, I would say, framework for what we needed to do. The idea was solve for our own problems first. If we can prove the methodology and we can prove the process, we can then productize it. So that's what we did. 2024 was how do we build AI recruiters within our business to solve our own existing placements that we're hiring for right now. And that's what we did. We had immediately some surprising results, but it got better, it got more efficient, and we learned what worked, what didn't work, what tools, where the human needs to be involved, where to rely on AI, where you can't trust AI. We learned a lot of that through that process. And so when we released a product, we felt really good about the product because we knew where AI was already very strong, where it can be trusted, where it matters to the candidate to be involved. Like a candidate doesn't matter if they're interacting with AI, meaning a candidate is open to working with AI as long as they know and you're transparent that you're working with AI. So, for example, if someone works a 12-hour day, they don't want to get on a call with you at the end of the day and, interview with you or screen with you or talk with you. They want to go home. They want to relax for a few bits. They see their family. And then maybe at 1 o'clock in the morning, they want to consider this. Maybe when they stay up and they're like frustrated about their workday, this is the time that they want to go through this process when they have peace and quiet, or maybe they have that nighttime, you know, activity or sleeplessness. But if you give them that opportunity to do so, they'll gladly do it as long as they know that this is an option. But if they want to talk to a real person and they want that option, we have that affordability as well. So as long as you're transparent about your process, you're not trying to fake it or trying to, pass off that you're a real person, but it's really obviously an AI agent or a bot. I think that that's where you start to lose a lot of trust, and that becomes dangerous for your brand, if your company. But as long as you're transparent, you make it efficient, you make it easy for the candidate, and you be, just quite clear about what's happening. Like, hey, this is an agent. I'm here to assist you. If you want to talk to a real person, here's how you proceed forward. If you don't, you want to carry on this way, you can carry on this way. So that's what we did. Productized it, launched it. Customers were really excited about it because it's a fraction of the cost than traditional recruiting. It allowed them to continue growing with us, allowed them to hire at scale, and they didn't need to hire more HR or talent acquisition bodies to meet that scale. So it became very successful on that side.
Amazing, amazing. I suppose now to look on the flip side, running a business is in any industry is tough, and especially in recruitment, as mentioned, with all the changes happening, it is tough. So I suppose for you, what are some potentially things that are maybe frustrating, or things that are potentially harder than they potentially should be right now, or maybe creating a issue for your business, and maybe how have you navigated that or navigating it right now?
Yeah, great question. Getting through to candidates, I mean clients as well. If you're talking about the recruiter's frustration, or like a recruiting business's potential frustration, it's a hard environment to sell these days because of AI. Every company is wondering, why do I want to use a recruiter, or what's the value? What do you do different? What do you bring to my organization? What specialization? What experience? So there's a lot of competitive energy in the space right now from a business development standpoint. You really need to focus in on your value proposition and what you do very well and lean into that. And also obviously serve your ICP well. From the candidate side, I think it's really hard to get through candidates today. It takes a lot more activity than it used to. I think candidates are turned off to the spamming and the messaging and to the cold emails, and it just takes a lot more energy than it used to get through to a candidate. And we still do, it just takes a little bit more concerted effort. The way we do that is we send personalized message. It does take a little bit more work, but we do send personalized looms. We send voice notes, something that symbolizes that we took a bit of time to do some research, understand who they are, what they've done in their career, maybe why this opportunity is aligned to their needs or to their goals or where they're going. Not just a generic email like, hey, noticed you on LinkedIn. Let's connect. I have an opportunity. That's cold. You're going to be ignored or deleted every day. So I would say those two things, it's basically both messaging, but those two things are causing a bit of frustration from the business angles.
Sure. No, great point. And I suppose if we look now a little bit into the future, very exciting times, potentially tough times ahead as well. I guess with New Vine, what are some goals for you over the next 12 months to potentially 2-3 years? Where do you want to be?
Great question. I won't go into specific numbers, but we have a goal of increasing our monthly recurring revenue on Vine. Vine is a subscription that we allow our clients to subscribe to. We do it in terms of 3, 6, or 12-month subscription blocks. We want to double our MRR by the end of the year. And from a direct placement standpoint, that's our agency is boutique. So we are very choosy about the companies that we tend to partner with. You need to be able to You need to know where your company's going. You need to have a strategic vision. You need to know who you want to hire, who does well within your organization. We help our clients get there. We refer them to personality assessments, to skills assessments, culture alignment fits, growth opportunity fits. These are areas where you need to be aligned in the candidate that you're hiring, because if you don't, it's going to severely increase the chance of leading to a mishire. So we want to understand those things. If a business doesn't understand those things, or they don't want to understand those things, it's very hard for us to do a great job, and we want to do a great job. So we try to be consultative. We try to take that approach and give them the guidance that they need. But our company grows, I would say, probably a bit slower at pace just because of
Mm,
our selectiveness for clients.
sure. No, amazing. Both, amazing goals. And, it sounds like you've had a pretty incredible journey so far. I like to ask this question to everyone, but, given the goals that you have, hypothetically, if you had a magic wand to take into business right now and you'd wave it and it would fix that one issue, what would potentially that be, or what would you use that one?
Yeah, I don't know if there's like one particular issue that can be solved. I would say the ongoing issue for recruitment, and this is just something that's always been existing, so it's probably more to that rather than anything else, is the uncertainty of everyone else's business, right? In recruitment, we're kind of dependent on everyone else's success. If a company has success, they continue growing, then we can continue growing alongside them. But as soon as there's an economic downturn, or there's like some sort of civil unrest, there's a war, there's blockades, there's strikes. All of these things impact us in other ways. And so I guess if I can wave a magic wand and make that go away, that would be the greatest thing ever.
Amazing, amazing. Well, Jared, thank you so much for making the time and coming on. It's been a fantastic conversation, and really enjoyed the points you've mentioned. Where can people find you and follow what you're building?
Yeah, great question. You can follow me on YouTube. I do a weekly YouTube video content just like this, talking about hiring best practices, real stories, processes and frameworks that I'm implementing in my business, and what I'm doing with my clients, talking about current events, trends, things like that. I also have a newsletter called The Hierarchy. You can follow and subscribe there at thehierarchy.com. And that kind of covers a lot of the same thing, but in real time. Drops every Tuesday, 5-minute reads, usually very real, raw material built for recruiters, hiring managers, hiring leaders, people who value the inside information for hiring, for sure.
Amazing, amazing. Well, Jared, thank you so much for coming on once again.
Mhm. Yeah,
Appreciate it.
happy to be here. Thanks.